court-approved sanctioned vessels. Let's listen in to the US Secretary of State.
Necessary because this is not an invasion. We didn't occupy a country. This was an arrest operation. This was a law enforcement operation. He was arrested on the ground in Venezuela by FBI agents, read his rights, and removed from the country. I encourage everyone, I know it's Sunday, people are busy, but the indictments have now been unsealed. People should read this indictment. They should read this indictment. They should read what this man did for the last 15 years of his life against the United States, him and his wife. He was arrested. Obviously, this was not a friendly territory. So in order to arrest him, we had to ask the Department of War to become involved in this operation. The Department of War went in, they hit anything that was a threat to the agents that were going in to arrest him, and they hit anything that was a threat on the way out, and they hit anything that was a threat to them while they were on the ground. And that was a very limited and targeted operation. You can't congressionally notify something like this for two reasons. Number one, it will leak. It's as simple as that. And number two, it's an exigent circumstance. It's an emergent thing that you don't even know if you're going to be able to do it.
Marco Rubio there, the US Secretary of State, with some comments on yesterday's operation. Okay, joining us now is Erik Solheim, an international affairs expert, joining us live from Norway. Thank you very much, Erik, for joining us. What are your thoughts on Rubio's comments there? Is it credible to call this a law enforcement operation when it involved military assets, sovereignty breaches, and the seizing of a sitting head of state?
I think basically every citizen in the world understands that these arguments does not stand up to scrutiny. I mean, China cannot start making law enforcement operations in India. India cannot start doing it in Africa. Europe cannot do it in Latin America. That would be total anarchy. It will invite any number of violent incidents and wars. And it will be the international law and order will simply disappear. No nation can start enforcing its law on the territory of another nation.
And Erik, Rubio says Congress it wasn't informed to prevent leaks of this operation. Does secrecy justify passing constitutional oversight when it came to this operation?
Well, I'm not a law expert in the US. I will leave that to others, but I realize that many Americans, also many legal experts, believe this was not in accordance with American law either. But maybe more importantly, in the big picture of things, I mean, they have not really made the argument for this operation. It's true that a small amount of drugs are coming into the United States from Venezuela, but a lot more is coming from other nations. And Maduro was despised by his own people. He probably cheated the election last year. But there are many leaders in the world which are disliked by their own people, many leaders where other nations have difficulties with them. You cannot simply start attacking nations and capturing leaders of other nations. I mean, Russia claimed that Mr. Zelensky of Ukraine was a legitimate leader. Trump even at some point claimed that Biden was not a legitimate leader of the United States of America. There is no end to this if you open up for these kind of operations in other nations.
Erik, of course, the Secretary of State there, he said that this was a law enforcement operation. He said that he read Maduro, that Maduro's rights were read to him. However, Rubio also admits that the US will maintain sanctions and oil quarantine on Venezuela. Does this prove control and pressure, and not just justice is the real objective here?
Look, the wider arguments made by Rubio and Trump are even much more scary than these legal arguments, because they claim that the Americas is an influence zone where the United States should dominate. That's the word used. The United States should dominate the Americas. Well, I bet most Colombians or Brazilians or Chileans don't want to be dominated by the United States of America. And if you make that argument, what would be the argument that Russia shall not dominate its sphere of interest, or South Africa or India or China or any other major power should dominate its neighborhood? It's a very, very dangerous argument, because it will lead to conflicts and wars basically everywhere. And also making it so absolutely clear that the objective is not to create democracy in Venezuela. That will not be good either. But the objective is to get oil, and they claim that a lot of the oil in Venezuela belongs to the United States of America. Well, what's that? That's back to the days of imperialism, where Western powers were stealing resources from other nations.
Yeah, and Eric, is the US trying to normalize a new doctrine here, the self-proclaimed Don Roe doctrine, let's say, that it can police political enemies even beyond its borders?
I mean, that's the doctrine they are proposing. I mean, it's a new variety of the 1812 Monroe Doctrine, the doctrine at the time basically said that the United States want to play a key role in the Americas, and they don't want foreign imperialist powers, meaning United Kingdom and France, into the Americas. Well, you may agree or disagree with that doctrine, but at least there was some sense in that. Why should the Americas invite all sorts of imperialist powers into the Americas? But now it says that the United States, one out of all the nations in America, should dominate all the others. You think the Canadians or the Mexicans or the Brazilians will agree to that? It's because a recipe for disaster and conflict within the Americas, and it sets a kind of trajectory for the rest of the world where other nations can claim that they can dominate their neighborhood. Look to Africa, there are 54 nations. Some of them are small and weak. If the larger nations claim we can dominate our neighborhood, there is no end to conflicts.
Yes, Eric, stay with us as we have more updates for our viewers as we carry on with this discussion. Now, US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has said that President Trump has flipped the script in Venezuela. He says decades of US involvement cost blood,